All right, we got to get our Facebook groups in here before it's time to start the show. I don't see yours on here, Scott. I don't know what
I
it's
took it
called.
off.
You
We
took it
don't
off?
need it right now. I've got enough of the I've got enough original content going in that we don't need to add more.
Well, good for you. Isn't that nice? That's great. Now, gosh, I guess we should have talked to Reeds before, right? Pizza coming up here. I'll just follow the lead. I got it up here. So appreciate everybody coming in. Good morning. It is Monday. We are here. We're here to talk some ball, get a nice 45-minute show in, and Broncos for breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Scott Kennedy. Scott, welcome back to normalcy here for a little bit. What's good? Did you have a good time down at Senior Bowl? You don't look like a lobster, so good on you, protecting yourself, not getting sunburnt.
Yeah, there's some guys. It was funny because I guess it goes east west. I don't know how it goes, but the point is the sun's always over your left shoulder from where we were watching, and there were some Harvey Dent Two-Face guys down there that were torched on the left side of their faces. But I took the sunscreen, took a hat. It's cool enough I could wear a jacket, so I was like, I got old man sunscreen on here. I'm just gonna put on a hoodie and keep it off. So it was some good sun, some good sun. But yeah, great time down there. Some really good players, and looking forward to. I've gone through the wide receivers and the quarterbacks. A lot of those are on my YouTube channel now, and I'm looking forward to taking my time to go through the team stuff so I can get all of the offensive line play as well.
Yeah,
May pop tires, Keith. It's May pop. May blow tires. May blow sounds a little. If you saw who was trending on Twix this morning. Anyway, May pop tires. Trip was good. Nice enterprise rental. 42 miles per gallon. It was good.
Good for you. Yeah, it looked like a good time. One day, hopefully, I will get down there and do well. And yeah, this is Jay saying got that Chad and Zach time. 15 minutes late. Blame me. Had a hard time last night and wanted to help the wife out, get some sleep, and feed the baby before we got on here. So
Mondays are the only day we do 2 podcasts also. So
yeah.
that's the reason for that. So if you want to come in and say, hey, just hop over to youtube.com/Scott Kennedy on Monday mornings and say, hey, and then you'll know exactly when we're going to be over here.
Yep. I agree. And we got David Youngkin coming in here saying, morning, everyone. Since everyone in Broncos country can't agree on a quarterback, I don't care who they get as long as they get him. And Sean works great together or get BPA. Yeah, I think there's a very strong possibility that the Broncos punt on quarterback entirely this cycle. And that will make a lot of people mad. But I just, for where they're picking, and if they don't love any of the guys, and for where I view this team at right now, if you got so much work to do drafting and getting this team, then the roster healthier, that there's no reason to force it. You are not in your window right now. Like I view this team almost, Scott, like we did when you and I first started covering the Falcons. We're a year away from being a year away, unfortunately. And I don't know if that lines up with the head coach. Maybe some of these guys on the roster really step up. But right now, when I go through building blocks and like difference makers, and like players that other teams would want, I feel like you're in the bottom 5 to 10 in the NFL in that aspect, unfortunately. So it doesn't have to be a quarterback. You just need to come away with good players.
Yeah, and one of the differences was the Falcons were sitting at number 4 when we started doing this, and they had the opportunity. And I guess you had that same discussion at with the Denver Broncos because Justin Fields did fall to there. And you're like, and again, the discussion goes, well, Justin Fields is a bust. Okay, I don't necessarily agree, but he didn't have a lot of success in Chicago. Was the not success in Chicago, was that because of Justin Fields, or was that because of him going to a bad team? Him going to a bad team, or a combination of both. Part of it. But the point I would make is you're certainly not any worse off. You wouldn't be any worse off if you had taken Justin Fields, especially the Atlanta Falcons. Now you still have a chip, an asset in Pat Surtain that's worth first round plus, where the Falcons have run the value of Kyle Pitts into the ground.
Yeah, it's be interesting to see. And that's another thing, we keep talking about, like, what about the Texans turning it around quickly? The Texans had a lot of cap space and 2 top 6 picks and 2 future first round picks and an overall young roster. So if the Broncos were picking at 2 overall and had all those extra resources, sure, different conversation. Unfortunately, this is a team that's way in the red with cap space, and you only have 1 pick in the top 75.
But they're not. They also weren't a 3-14 team. They were 8-9 and in the playoff hunt. I think can they get better this year? Can the Broncos improve from one year to the next? Yeah, I think they can. Well, what's an improvement? A 2-game improvement's 10-7, 2 games, and you're possibly talking about a playoff spot. It is possible. So, what are you actually losing? You're losing Russell Wilson. How many of those games did you win because of Russell Wilson? Or how many of those games, would an average quarterback replacement, if Jarrett Stidham can he play similarly to Russell Wilson? Maybe. Russell Wilson's numbers, while we take them for granted as being part of the system, statistically, what was he, like 28-9 on touchdown to interceptions or somewhere in that neighborhood? Fumbles were there. If we put those in there, can you get a 2-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio from Jarrett Stidham? Maybe. That's not a guaranteed.
Yeah, I think probably this year you'll probably have a step back at quarterback. Maybe. It's hard to say. I mean, I think somebody like, as milquetoast as it is, like Jimmy Garoppolo could come in and work the middle of the field and operate the system at a high level. Both Eastern Illinois grads there with Sean Payton and Jimmy Garoppolo. So it would be interesting to follow, but we'll see. I don't know if they'll take a quarterback this cycle, and because I don't think they probably have a guy they like or two guys they like, and they might be out of range. Aaron Wagner coming in says, "Morning, guys. After all that was rumored at the Senior Bowl, what are your personal odds now that Denver walks away with either Nix or JJ McCarthy? I'd be fine with late first in either of them, and then keep swinging if they miss." I think that odds are not great just because it's two guys versus the entire field there, but they're definitely doing the work, and they're still, putting their board together. A lot of the scout in the front office have opinions on these guys, but the coaches, they've been working on the team, not the scouting process of the draft and everything. So they're just starting to get familiar with these guys. They're going to get a chance still. So that's not impossible. Maybe Peyton ends up loving Nix. Maybe didn't love him. Maybe they love JJ McCarthy. I think that taking the field here is a better option.
Yeah, again, it's taking the field is just because of the probability. My thoughts on this, Aaron, if the Denver Broncos want either Bo Nix at 12 or JJ McCarthy at 12, I think they can get them at 12. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, but I think they could get them at 12.
Which one is less likely to be there?
I think JJ McCarthy is less likely to be there than Bo Nix.
I agree. That's just because the NFL's favorite word and the one that gets more guys fired than anything. Potential. Yeah, potential. Mm-hmm. We got Jeremy Sean said, "Morning, boys. Let the Bo Nix slander begin." Just kidding, but not really. Bo Nix is a fine quarterback. And if the Broncos,
and again, it's relative. One of the follow-up comments was, "Oh, he had 45 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He sucks." Oh, we don't want him at 12. He sucks. Jeremy, perspective, dude. We don't saying a guy could be taken at 35, 36, 37 is hardly saying he sucks. It's saying he's one of the top 50 players in the draft, period. So again, it's perspective. Do we want him at 12? No, I don't want the Broncos to take Bo Nix at 12. Does that mean he sucks? No, it's just I don't like him in the top 15.
Yeah, he should go in the Kenny Pickett, Andy Dalton range. Pick 20, 25 through pick 40, 45, which has a chance to develop into a good starting quarterback, not a blue chip quarterback. And I think he has a lot of value on that rookie contract. He's going to come in and provide, I think, a pretty good baseline. And I think if you were a team that was very talented in the playoffs, but having a really terrible quarterback situation, I think Nix is probably as plug and play year one as anybody. Thinking of a team like maybe, oh gosh, it's hard to say a playoff team without a quarterback, right? But maybe a team like Pittsburgh. Maybe a team like the Rams, where you keep the good vibes going there because Matt Stafford doesn't have much time left. Those are ones where I think the windows make sense. I think Nix is going to be, I don't think he has as far to go up, but he's already at a good level of competency. So
how about our friends in Atlanta?
Second round, that'd make a lot of sense. Definitely not at 8 overall, but he's a good quarterback. He's fine. I just don't think he is this top 20 caliber pick. And from talking with people coming out of the Senior Bowl, I thought Nix was good. Probably more of a round 2 grade kind of guy. But we see round 2 graded guys at positions of value go round 1 all the time. It's just there's it's kind of a line of delineation there. So thinking back half first round, first few picks of the second round is where I'd pick him to go.
Nix is almost 25. Well, sort of, if you consider 24 being almost 25, because he turns 24 in a couple of weeks. Yeah. His birthday is February 25th, 0225. So he'll turn 24. He's still just 23. JJ McCarthy just turned 21. So JJ McCarthy is 3 years younger than Bo Nix and Michael Penix. Something else to think about.
We got DTR coming in here saying, I don't think we need to have a fire sale in order to draft a good quarterback. A good coach can develop players. Unfortunately, the fire sale I don't think is directly lined up to the good quarterback. The fire sale aspect is the fallout and ramifications of the Wilson contract and needing to get younger, cheaper players across the roster to get over the dead cap Russell Wilson hump. James Palmer, who is one of the more connected NFL beat reporters, NFL Network, does a bunch of shows for NFL Network, was on I think it was the DNVR podcast. Somebody sent it to me and showed that he said that he expects Garrett Bowles to be gone. And he also mentioned that Garrett Bowles expects Garrett Bowles to be gone because of the cap ramification stuff. So what does that mean to me? What am I reading the leaves? I think the Broncos have approached Garrett Bowles with a contract extension or re-signing, and Garrett Bowles rebuffed him. So they'll probably be a little back and forth there. But if they don't come to an agreement, you might see Garrett Bowles gone, opening up $16 million in cap space this year, but a massive hole at left tackle. So those are the tough conversations. We've seen Courtland Sutton being rumored here already this offseason. There's going to be, I wouldn't say a fire sale, but definitely guys on the block because the Broncos are going to have to try to figure out how to get through this $85 million dead cap hit coming from Wilson over the next 2 seasons.
It's easy to figure out, Nick. When you're hungry, you can call Little Caesars. Little Caesars, the official pizza sponsor of the NFL, knows football fans love a great game and a great deal. So we're tossing out a challenge and calling it Pick 6 for slices and sticks. They've got bars, too. If there's a Pick 6 during Super Bowl 58, fans who accepted the challenge on the Little Caesars app will get a free slices and sticks, period.
We've partnered with NFL legend linebacker Derek Brooks of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he knows all about the Pick 6, having returned one during Super Bowl 37 himself. That play led to a 44-yard touchdown and a win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So accept the challenge today and win some pizza.
Michael, appreciate the stars coming in and the pizza coming in as well. Getting back to what you were talking about with the salary cap, it's interesting to me. I mean, I know you were expecting Russell Wilson to play at a higher level than what you were getting and be able to do some things. But when you think about it, the salary cap ramifications, they're not much different than what they would have been if you were still going with Russell Wilson as your quarterback. The dead cap is very similar to what his cap hit would have been. The difference is you have your good quarterback in theory, but when we start talking about what's around him, that your ability to spend wouldn't have changed. He's got a $35 million cap hit if you keep him, and it's roughly a $40 million dead cap hit next year. So it's almost cap neutral. The problem is you don't have a quarterback, and you're not getting that quarterback that you paid for, that you traded for. So you're expecting to have top 10 at worst level of quarterback play to try and elevate. But that's what you were counting on, Nick, is you were counting on him to elevate the rest of the team, because all of a sudden now the rest of the team isn't good enough and we got to get rid of some of these guys. Well, that wasn't going to change no matter what you did with Russell Wilson, Nick. So there's been some internal scouting mistakes regardless.
Yeah, and
you weren't just a quarterback away.
No. Also, the hit rate on the draft in the last 2 drafts, not still a little early, but without your top 2 draft picks in both those cycles, no first round pick. And, Nick Bonito has been I think for where he's picked, he's been good at this point, but you kind of maybe hope for more still. Greg Dulcich has been a non-factor. That's an early 3rd round pick. You had Awuzurike and Damari Mathis early 4th round picks. I talk about day 3 picks being scratch tickets, but you're like first 10 picks in the 4th round typically end up being contributors still. You've gotten almost nothing from those guys. You trade up for Riley Moss. Drew Sanders doesn't look really great this season. Marvin Mims right now kind of a one-trick pony. So you kind of have gotten almost nothing outside of Nick Bonito in 2 draft classes following the Russell Wilson trade too. So it's a tough spot. No doubt. I mean,
we're in a tough spot.
I hate to have to keep being doom and gloom there, and you mentioned it, you're correct in your Russell Wilson cap ramifications for 2024. It's really, you're trying to make sure that you have the ability to get out of it sooner. So
Right.
because you're moving on, it's the
I
big
know.
benefits are down the line.
But the point is you're talking about, again, this you need more. Well, that really doesn't have anything to do with Russell Wilson. That's my point, other than the trade. But I'm talking about as far as the money goes and the player himself, as far as the money goes, the fact that you don't moving on from Russ or keeping Russ doesn't change the fact that you are cap strapped. It doesn't really make that big a difference right now, or that, hey, we don't have enough good players. Now, we don't have enough good players can absolutely tie back into the trade, but that's a different that's a different discussion too. That has nothing to do with, do we keep Russ, or do we eat this dead cap? Oh, we can't eat the dead cap. It's going to kill. I think I made my point on that. Lawrence Rivera coming in with big stars. Appreciate you, Lawrence. He says, "What up, guys? I can't believe my parents get to have another Super Bowl." And by that, my dad is a 49ers fan. And my mom's a KC fan. Well, lucky for them. I'm betting on KC this one because if they win, at least the three-way Super Bowl tie game will be broken between the Broncos, Raiders, and Chiefs, and at least I'll get to make money. See, Lawrence, you're learning. Always bet on who you want to lose. At least if they win and you're pissed, you get paid for it. That's how I bet. So someone asked me the other day, who are you picking in this one? Or if you had to put money on it, where would you put money on this game coming up? And I said, well, I'd normally bet on who I'd want to lose. But I don't really care in this one. I'd probably like to see San Francisco. I think there's some Kansas City Chiefs fatigue that we'd like to see anew. As far as neutrals go, Broncos fans, AFC West fans aren't neutral when it comes to the Chiefs. I don't particularly care, but I'd rather see some new blood in there as far as Super Bowl champions go. It's why we all wanted to see the Lions in there.
Yep. Yeah, really tired of the Chiefs, no doubt. Mark Schrader, good morning, Nick and Scott. Good to see you, Mark. We got Troy Boer in here also saying, assume you trade back a few times and have picks at the middle, top, middle, and end of the second, and top, middle, and end of the third. Wow, so you think we have 6 day 2 picks here? Is that what this is saying? Who are your dream realistic picks?
Say if you trade back a couple times, let's say you go from 1, down to 40, and then you go from 40 to 50.
Well, you already don't have a pick at the top of the second round then. If you go,
but you trade, let's say you trade from 1 and you get a 40 and a 75. Okay, whatever, and you could probably do better than that. So you get 2 picks for that 1. Then you take that 40 and turn it into a 50 and an 85. So now I've just picked up 4 picks. That's kind of what he's talking about there. I can take 1 pick and spin it into 4 by trading back a couple of times. This is a really in-depth question, Troy, about 4 guys that we could get at the back end. But one of the things about the middle round picks is you can get premium players at non-premium positions in the third, fourth, in that area where you can get your inside linebackers, you can get your centers, you can get your guards, you can get your safeties. That's where I would start looking at those guys. And guess what? That is the spine of your team. That's right up the middle. I can get a defensive tackle because defensive tackles, other than the top end, the really top guys, you can find depth defensive tackles in the middle rounds. You absolutely can. So, yes. And it was a question I got on Twitter from, wasn't Roderick that hit me up this morning. Apologies. Who it was? I have to look. I can't remember. But was asking, wouldn't you rather have a premium player at 12 than more okay players down the line if you're talking about trading back? It says, well, one, the probability of it, if you've got a 70, is that there's still prospects you're not always going to hit. So let's say at 12, I've got a 75% chance of getting a good player, a great player. Let's say in the second round, that drops to 50%, but I have 2 picks. Well, probability says that 2 picks at 50% is equal to 75% chance for 1. I know we'd said there'd be no math, so it ends up being equal. But now I also have a chance of getting 2 good players. The other part of it is, where is your team? Would 1 great player do my team more good than 2 good players? For this Denver Broncos team, no. 2 good players would do more to help your team than 1 great player because you've got holes across your roster. So if I'm a playoff team and I'm 1 player away, then I might want the 1 higher guy. But in this case, Nick, you need depth. You need numbers. You need good football players, as many of them as you can get.
And it's going to depend on the evaluation of who's available at the time. Let's say one of the, as Mel Kiper called them, the nifty 9 in this class, one of the top 9 offensive players are available at 12. They probably won't be. But let's say one of them is, and then you probably just, unless somebody offers you a great trade back package, just take the talent at some point. At some point, you just have to, find good players at the end. But it's really going to come down to who is available and what is your assessment of the talent at the time in comparison to how good that trade offer is. We talk about Pittsburgh and the Rams, 2 teams that might be in the quarterback market there. If they want to move up from 20 to 12 to get a quarterback and, tossing a day 2 pick this year and a day 2 pick next year as well, on top of, 19 or 20. No. Okay. Well, now we're talking. I really like this. Let's just say Talise Fuaga there at 12 for the Broncos. But, there's other good tackles too. Maybe I'm looking at a center down there. Maybe an edge rusher falls down there. Well, I like the ability to get those more picks, give myself flexibility also to move around the board. That's one thing right now, Scott, too, that I don't think we appreciate enough. Both Sean Payton and George Payton, while they kind of have different philosophies to the draft, they both want to be active and moving. And right now the Broncos don't have the picks to be movers up or down. They just don't have that flexibility. So I do think a trade is very possible, but we'll see. I also think you're going to have some players traded before the draft as well, which will give you some flexibility at the same time.
And it all comes down to trusting your board also. So like Nick was saying, if one of those top guys falls down and you're at 12 and you look at your board and you say, okay, my board now says the best available remaining players. I've got a guy that I graded as a 95 is sitting there at 12. Let's say I got a 1 to 100 grading scale. 95 is sitting there at 12. The number 2 guy on my board drops to an 87. And it goes way down and it slides down from that. And I've got this guy significantly higher than everybody else. That you take that guy. Then you take it because it's almost an exponential curve when it comes to the top level. And that's how they pay the guys too, frankly, of talent. The very top guys they're difference makers. They're freaks. They're supposed to be. This is the NFL. These are the most athletic players, biggest, fastest, strongest guys in the world. So it's like, well, why wouldn't Chicago then trade down and pick up 10 picks? Because that difference maker at quarterback on a cost-controlled contract is worth all of these extra players if you can hit the right positions with the right players.
Yeah. Yep.
Team building, it's fun. It is. And there is no right answer.
The right answer is draft good players.
Yeah.
And good luck identifying them. Do you want to say hello to Pearl Heater coming in? Just really love that blanket that you sent me, Pearl. Thank you so much. Well, not me, but Mills. Good morning. Hey, I was on time for the Broncos. Good to see you. Fallen Sloth's in here too. Good morning, Broncos country. Hope everyone's week is going off to a great start. Shai says, who's going to be the next quarterback for the Broncos? It is going to be a salvage project, I believe. Unfortunately, for Broncos country, nobody wants to hear that, but we are back on the quarterback carousel. And you probably got Sean Payton probably has the next 3 draft cycles before he has to fully commit on a quarterback. And from where I view the roster, I don't think you have to be all in right now. You still assess, and you always ask yourself, when you go into every single offseason, do I have the franchise quarterback on the roster? If yes, then you move on. If no, is there one available? If yes, you take him. If no, you move on. And I think we're kind of on that flow chart right now with the Broncos. If the crazy things happen in the draft, let's say they absolutely adore Drake May, and Drake May falls to the 3rd pick. You're calling. You're seeing what's up because it doesn't hurt to call. You're probably going to get outbid by every single team around you because you don't have the capital in comparison to a lot of these teams. But you're calling. So you're hunting right now. You're not in a position to aggressively hunt. And one thing you do not want to do is settle because you are so far away in the team. You're so far down the hole in building blocks, young building blocks right now that, we have to take a quarterback here that we don't really love. Where do you go with that? I mean, I guess the upside is you hit on a quarterback because you never know. But if you don't truly believe in him, you shouldn't be forced to take that pick. You have enough questions and long-term building block vacancies right now that just get good players and go from there. It seems simple, but I don't know.
And Lauren says, we get another Saint or Viking, I'm going to be 6. So no Derek Carr. I get Jimmy G and Derek Carr confused in my brain unbelievably between the Saints-Raiders connection. Mm-hmm. And then, or Kirk Cousins. Now, what would be the most fun scenario for the draft, Nick?
What?
The Commanders or the Patriots sign Kirk Cousins in free agency?
Yeah, that would be. Would he go back to the Commanders? That'd be talk about some. For Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins.
that probably wouldn't happen. But say, because I'm asking, why would the Patriots come out of the 3 spot? Because again, the Commanders and the Patriots both need quarterbacks too. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to trade. I want to trade up and get into this spot to get a franchise quarterback with a team that needs a franchise quarterback. Well, that doesn't make any sense. That's almost impossible to do unless you got Jared Mayo, who's coming in and saying, I love my defense. I love it. I want to make a splash my first year. I want a veteran quarterback. I'm going to get my veteran quarterback in free agency, and I think we can make a big push in year 1.
Yeah,
the problem is, Nick, is you got Houston saying we can do that with a rookie.
Yeah. I think the question here at the Patriots is that Drake May and Jaden Daniels are like really different quarterbacks, and there might be an archetype that they want. And if Drake May wasn't there, well, we're not really in on Jaden Daniels, hit the back of his drop and look to take off. We want somebody who's going to hang in the pocket. We appreciate the athleticism, but he's throwing to 2 first-round picks. The defense was terrible, so they had to throw it around. And again, we want somebody who can play within structure, within the pocket. Even though Jaden Daniels could be amazing, and I would definitely take him at 3. Maybe that's not the Patriots' assessment. Maybe they would rather just sit there and take the best player in the draft, in their opinion, Marvin Harrison Jr., or trade back. And maybe they like Bo Nix archetype more, or JJ McCarthy versus the Jaden Daniels. So it's always very personal and this archetype that you're looking for these quarterbacks. So I do think it is possible that it's not 1, 2, 3 with the Patriots.
You just put more doubt into my brain, that's for sure. And if the Patriots come out of that spot, they're going to get a haul. Holy cow! They're going to get something similar to what the Dolphins got for Trey Lance, which was 3 first-round picks. I can do some good with 3 first-round picks. Especially, I don't know how much the personnel has changed. I'm sure it's changed through the years now that Belichick's gone, or else their general manager. Belichick wouldn't have gotten so much power up there if the infrastructure had stayed in place through the last 15 years. But during that run, the Patriots were as good on draft day as anybody, as far as trading down and picking up good players until Belichick started doing it. And coaches don't usually make good GMs.
Yeah, they Patriots built a dynasty off of trading back and then getting future capital off of it. They're like, well, we're already good. You need to win right now. We know we're going to win right now. So we'll trade back from 20 to 40, and you're going to give us a future day 2 pick as well at the same time. And again, that's easy for us to say because we don't have our jobs on the line here. We don't have to win now. But they did really well with that. More comments in here. Chris Beeson coming in. Good to see you. Jay Roper says, someone said Jaden Daniels has a zipper of an arm. Thoughts? His arm is fine. He doesn't really drive the ball very well. I thought some of his deep balls had a little bit underthrown, where you have Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors going up and making some incredible plays with great spacing. But it's enough of an arm when you consider the athleticism there at the well. He also has some pretty good anticipatory throws. I do have some questions with his ability to drive the football, but I love that he has the mentality where he'll try things in there. And in the NFL, you're going to have to be able to throw in some tight windows and throw guys open. It's not just, guy wide open, home run, check down, 2 read, low pressure situations, not throwing any quarterbacks under the bus with that one.
It's kind of funny, Nick, when these guys from Ohio State or Alabama or LSU or USC go to the NFL and they get worse wide receivers.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what happened with Mac Jones. I mean, who the hell was he throwing to out there with the Patriots compared to Waddle, Ruggs, Judy, and Smith? I mean, God bless it. That's unbelievable. Yeah, why so? I see why so negative, Nick. I don't know. I'm not a believer in this team. I think they had actually a lot of turnover luck this season. That's probably pretty unsustainable. Some 1-score game luck and some injury luck all wrapped together with competent coaching. I think this was probably a team that if you put average coaching on them, they win 6 games last year. They outdid that because of factors in coaching. So,
and I think what you saw was a 6-1 run from a team that was improving and a culture shift. And, as they improve with the coaching, I think they can at least hold par. Again, I think we take Russell Wilson just because we take his numbers for granted. It's like, oh, well, he was holding this team back, couldn't do what he wanted with the offense. All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to replicate 30-10? Let's just round up as far as touchdowns to turnovers go. I rounded up on both sides of this. So let's say 25-10. I'll round down. 25-10, you can't necessarily take that for granted. And Broncos country, you've seen the quarterback play over the last 6-7 years. This was the best season you've had since what? 14? 15? What was the big year from, the Super Bowl year wasn't a great year from.
They went, 2016. They barely missed the playoffs, but I think they were 8-8 in 2016.
So again, you start looking at the guys you can lose. If you decide to restructure Bowles, Cortland Sutton, and Justin Simmons and keep them on, who are you really losing from this team? Josie Jewell, probably. Lloyd Cushenberry. Okay, I think those guys are replaceable.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson. Well, again, are we taking those guys too much for granted? Maybe I am.
Yep. And we'll see, without a doubt. So we definitely want to talk about we got Pigs saying I like the offensive tackles in this draft. We're going to have a chance to talk about this. Jeremy says you can't just trade down. You need someone to trade down with. Yep. I mean, there are going to be teams that will call to trade down, but you have to get good value too, right? Like, oh, we'll trade down. You can move down to 20 and we'll give you a 6th-round pick. Get out of here. I'm trying to watch the potty mouth here, Scott.
This is where you want the quarterbacks to blow up. Because your best value, and then you're going to take one if you like them. That's the problem you're in. The best way to trade down is if someone wants a quarterback and they come up to get them. But if you don't like them, that's one thing. But you need a quarterback too. So your best trade down scenario kind of gets wiped off the board because you want a quarterback also.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just it's kind of it's a weird situation for the Broncos. See a lot of comments here. I mean, we did see this last year, teams like the Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions work with salvage quarterbacks, former number 1 overall picks that wound up being pretty good. Maybe you have a chance at a Sam Darnold or one of these former quarterbacks. Maybe it's McCarthy. I don't know. I think in the end it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo with a quarterback, and you're kind of kicking the can there. But I don't know. We will see. I just think that probably a team is further away, and I don't know if they're going to commit themselves to a quarterback just yet. But talking about the Senior Bowl here, Scott, we do want to get into it a little bit. I think first we have to start with quarterbacks. Bo Nix and Michael Penix, both of them, I think, if we're going to talk in golf terms, I think they parred throughout the entire Senior Bowl process overall. Penix showed pretty good flashes in the arm talent, but still some questions of getting rid of the football. Honestly, he took more sacks than I thought he should, Scott. Even in like the 7-on-7 period, you got to get rid of the bleeping ball. So I had some issues with that. Nix really stepped up in the 7-on-7s day 3 in the red zone period. Not as much in the team drills early on. Kind of played tight, I thought. I don't know if you kind of got that feeling as well. Felt like just kind of like, there's not a looseness there. There's not a attacking mentality. The quarterback that I came away the most impressed with.
Real quick, Nick. I want to see you mentioned Bo Nix. So I just have his first. This was Bo Nix. These were his last 3 throws of Senior Bowl, basically. Okay, he this finished the 3rd day of practice. This was this was his last 3 throws. That throw to the back corner was as pretty a throw as anybody threw all week. And then that was the first of 3. These are all in order. Nice play. That's Brendan Rice back there in the corner. Had a great week. And then finally, just dealing. There's Tez Walker. So he took 4 reps. Apologies. He took 4 reps in that 7-on-7 and went 4 for 4 with 3 touchdowns. Okay. Now, people will say all the time, looks like he's competing against the Broncos pass rush. Saw some comments on there. Anybody can throw with no pass rush. Well, there is pressure on you, mental pressure. That's not true. In this same scenario, the next guy up I think he came after, but in this same drill, Sam Hartman was 0 for 4. Bo Nix was 4 for 4 with 3 touchdowns. Sam Hartman didn't have a completion. Mm-hmm. So again, those are the things that you look at Bo Nix and you're like, man, he surveys the field. He knows he's finding the open guys, giving his guys a chance. Those are the things you love, man. You absolutely love. And that's how he finished. He finished strong down in Mobile.
Yeah. I think he is going to go one of probably the last picks in the first round. And if the Broncos took him there, that'd be great. I feel pretty confident in saying that he's not going to end up being a top 12 pick. But he can be a very competent quarterback. And I think you kind of know what you're getting with Nix. And I do like to tell the anecdote. He's a very smart player. He's seen a lot of things, so that's good. He better, be a highly intelligent player at this point, considering the most college starts in college football history. But there was a clip. Oregon likes to do like a little like post game hype clip where they show like Bo Nix audibling, and the offensive coaches don't even know what he's doing. They're like, okay, well, Bo Nix made the call. I know he got us in the right look. He's going to make a right decision. And I think he makes an audible and it's a touchdown play in the end. I mean, that's valuable. That's stuff that you don't get when you're just watching the tape, when you're watching the tools and whatnot. So there's a chance there that he ends up being a great quarterback again. Right now, the quarterback's such an intangibles based position, and where Scott and I are, we can really pretty much only go off the tangibles because the intangibles is a lot of hearsay out here. But I think he's going to end up being a late first round pick in that Kenny Pickett to Andy Dalton range. I think your best case scenario, or most probable best case scenario, is you get a Derek Carr-like quarterback where sometimes it's like, man, you're being a little bit of a chicken in terms of hanging tough in the pocket. You want to make sure you're playing physical and keeping the eyes down the field rather than getting to that check down the moment you feel pressure. Let's hunt for some big plays, test some windows while protecting the football. Easier said than done. But he can be a good quarterback. And I also fairly confident in saying he will be the first quarterback drafted out of the Senior Bowl quarterbacks this cycle.
You know who he reminds me of? And Olio says, greetings from Germany. Appreciate you being here overseas, my friend, and welcome. He says, thanks for shortening the off season. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you. Talking about the brains, the average type of arm, the accuracy, who that reminds me of just on a 1-for-1 comp.
Alex
and I
Smith.
think Bo Nix actually runs better is Deshaun Watson.
Oh.
Deshaun Watson coming out of Clemson. I watched Deshaun Watson from high school. Deshaun Watson is the only high school quarterback that I scouted that got to call his own plays. He called his own plays when he at Gainesville High School, the Red Elephants, one of the best mascots out there, the Gainesville Red Elephants. And you can go back, the very first appearance I ever made on MHH, Deshaun Watson was being traded for him. We were talking about him here. So what do you like so much about him? The cerebral of what he does pre-snap and his vision. What I like more about Deshaun Watson was what I watched him do when he was under pressure. I thought he was a little bit more, had a little bit more poise. Mm-hmm. But from a physical comp where Deshaun Watson didn't have the huge arm, he wasn't a big runner. He wasn't, have all of these things. All he did was get people in the right play, get the ball, and was really accurate and get the ball to the right spot. And had a lot of success. So my comp for him would probably be Deshaun Watson. We'll forget about the off-field stuff. I just, as far as the player goes, when I hear him, and Deshaun Watson fell some because he doesn't have a big arm. He doesn't have that howitzer of an arm. I think he's got a little bit more arm than Bo Nix, but Bo Nix is probably a little bit better of an athlete too.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson I think was much tougher in the pocket. I feel like Nix talk about the playing stiff when he feels pressure. I feel like he's looking to get rid of the ball very quickly, which there's a value to that still, but you're leaving explosives. It's always that fine line, right, Scott, of hunting for big plays while trying to not get the negatives. That's football at the end of the day, right? But I feel like Watson always played pretty tough and calm in the pocket, always had light feet, where Nix, I feel like, kind of gets a little bit hunched over, stiff, and loses a little bit of the vision and the accuracy when he feels pressure. He was the least pressured quarterback in college football last season, and I think that shows. And a lot of it is, getting rid of the ball really quickly. I think he also has one of the lowest time to throw. So the way the field, not full field reads, deep, home run to check down if it's not there, screen pass. So it's tough. I just don't know how much it translates. Doesn't mean he can't be that guy in the NFL. I think we learned that with the Justin Herbert translation to the NFL. Well, he's not throwing it down the field that much. Well, it's because he's playing in a horrible system for who he is. He needs to be, under center, play action, drop back, let that guy rip the football, not this air raid spread stuff that we're seeing. But I digress. I think Nix can be fine. He'll be the first quarterback drafted here. When you were talking about him there, I thought maybe you were going to go with Alex Smith. Not a
I
great arm.
didn't know Alex Smith the way I knew Deshaun.
Okay,
And
Deshaun,
Alex
I think
Smith was a really good runner.
yes.
And a
Not a good
winner
arm.
at Utah.
Yep.
But Deshaun Watson beat guys with his brain. And he started, like I said, he's the only quarterback I scouted when I was doing that stuff that he was calling his plays at the line of scrimmage. He was his own offensive coordinator in high school.
Yeah, and just to that point again, Deshaun Watson, what's the difference? I thought Deshaun Watson's pocket presence this year, I mean, I don't even know who he is after the suspension, but he's not the same quarterback he was in Houston and Clemson, but the ability to play tough in the pocket and the ability to test windows with anticipation. He never had a great arm, but he would throw guys open, where Nix, it's a little bit of a question right now because a lot of guys are open in that
the
system.
accuracy was there, as far as Nix and Watson there. They had enough. But Rob comes in with a super. He says, thoughts on JJ McCarthy. He's young, could still develop, good athlete, but wasn't asked to do much. Could he have a meteoric rise after testing at Combine and Pro Day? Meteoric rise, no. I think the testing and Combine and Pro Day means the least for the quarterbacks. And why I say that is because the quarterback position relies the most on stuff you cannot measure. So they'll get interviews, they'll get whiteboard sessions, they'll get background checks. You can do a lot of that before the draft and combine. But again, that's important, but not as important as an edge going up there and running a 4.45 at 265 pounds. That is how you get a meteoric rise. These quarterbacks could skip the combine. If they all skip the combine, their order wouldn't change that much as if they went to the combine. What you see on the field and in what happens during the games is more important for quarterbacks than it is for any other position. The film study is more important than really any other position where you're banking a lot on traits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, McCarthy's young. He's 27-1 in his career, which, I mean, teams value that. And I think that he's going to test extremely well. I think people are going to be shocked at the caliber of athlete that McCarthy shows he is at the combine with the running and the jumping. He is a superb athlete, and they break that glass only when they needed to at Michigan. But we saw it in the championship game. I think there was a couple of 3rd and longs where it's like, oh, McCarthy made something happen with his legs. That is pretty impressive. So we'll see. I do think the accuracy on some of the stuff outside the hash marks can be worked on. Sometimes the ball sails on him. I'm hoping that he can clean that up a little bit with his age. It's also really hard because a lot of these other quarterbacks were able to get into like rhythm, and Michigan really just not a rhythm passing offense. So it's tough. But yeah, back to the quarterbacks though. First, Rob Buxbaum though says McCarthy, good athlete. Yeah, I think he's a better athlete than expected, and teams are going to love him. His coaches are going to love him too. His senior year, I think, of high school, he got injured and he played through it to win the Illinois State Championship, where he already had the scholarship, could have protected himself. No, he went back out there. He might have had a broken hand and played through it and ended up winning a championship as a quarterback. That's pretty impressive. So teams are going to love the makeup of everything of McCarthy. And I think I'd put pretty good money right now that he will be at least the 4th quarterback taken. In the draft.
I like the arm. He throws well on the run. I think Michael Penix has a really good NFL arm. Left-handed. I see very similar in JJ McCarthy, but he's 3 years younger and doesn't have 4 bad joints.
My big issue with Penix is that arm does not translate off platform as much.
And
he's
McCarthy throws some darts on the run.
Yes. Penix is a little bit of a stiff, which is fine in the drop back spot. But once he's forced off that spot, it can be a little bit hit or miss. But yeah, no, talking here, other standouts here at the Senior Bowl before we get into this, the mock draft here. Darius Robinson, Mizzou is a big time player out there. Keon Mitchell at Toledo, and Roman Wilson and Ladd McConkey, both wide receiver winners out here. And then my biggest takeaway was the offensive line. I thought was phenomenal. It was a really good offensive line group this year. Right now, if I had to bet who's the first player drafted out of the Senior Bowl entirely, Scott, I'm going to go with Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. He's young. He's positional versatile. He plays with the mean streak. I don't think he has, incredible pass protection upside, but he's really, really solid. Tackles are going to be of value. He'll be a top 15 pick. And I know that there's been a lot of early flirtation between him and the New York Jets at 10. So keep an eye out for that in the draft process. Maybe even like him more than Olu Fashanu. So we'll see. I know Daniel Jeremiah has him higher. So those are the guys that stand out to me.
There's a lot of good offensive tackles in this draft. So, if you want to decide to, it will be the least sexy pick possible because you don't necessarily have them as starters. Well, unless you trade Bowles.
Yeah,
you might absolutely have a need at tackle.
I think that is a very distinct possibility right now, Scott. And I think it's also possible, as much as this is going to make people cringe a bit, but the McGlinchey shifting over to left tackle for a season, even though he struggled this year, he played left tackle at Notre Dame. And if you draft a pure right tackle, you might have to plug your nose for a season at left tackle while you are starting to turn over the roster and figure it out. So it's a possibility. Sorry, Scott. Go. I got my hands off the wheel.
That's okay. We clicked it 3 times, so we ought to be able to show it somehow. Scott, Nick, would you endorse from Keith Brugman? Thank you for the stars, Keith. Would you endorse a move to number 3 if the right quarterback is there? If not, where would you get your falling quarterback? I would absolutely endorse a move to 3 to get a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May. Absolutely. It would cost, what would it cost? Would it cost Pat Surtain and 2 first-rounders? Probably. Would I make that move? Maybe. It'd be expensive, but maybe. Again, where have you been with Pat Surtain is not going to be any more valuable than he's been from a play and contract perspective than he's been in the last 3 years. And Pat Surtain has had 3 different coaches.
Yeah.
The quarterback this isn't a hot take, Nick. The quarterback means more than the cornerback at a level. The problem is I've got a sure thing at cornerback. And then if I give up 2 more first rounders, the problem for me is I don't necessarily want to give up a future first rounders to get my quarterback, because this team could, you start doing that kind of stuff, trading Garrett Bowles, trading Pat Surtain, this team could be bad in 2025. And I don't want to see a Carolina Panthers situation where I didn't realize they traded 3 second-round picks too, Nick. Good God, what a haul for Bryce Young compared to Caleb Williams. I mean, good gracious. But yeah, and the second part of that is, if not, where would you get your falling quarterback? It just depends. It depends. It's so hard to say where they're going to be, where these guys are going to be. We talked about Malik Willis had a good Senior Bowl, and all of a sudden articles were coming out that this is going to be a guy. Would you trade up to number 1 overall for him? He went in the 4th. So we'll see. Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback taken in that draft. He went 23, 22, somewhere in that neighborhood, and another guy wasn't taken in the 3rd round. This is a better quarterback class than that by far, but let's take those top 3 off the board, and now let's take a look at where those guys are going to go. And man, Bo Nix could go anywhere from 8 to 55.
The Kenny Pickett range, baby. It's the same. We're having the same conversation, except we don't have to convince ourselves about quarterback 1 in this class. Kathy comes in and says, "Hi, Nick and Scott. If the Broncos go quarterback, her ranking is Drake May at 1, Jaden Daniels 2, Bo Nix 3, JJ McCarthy 4. Then there's a gap between Rattler and Milton. Pass on everyone else. Go Broncos." I know there's been talk, flirtations, at least connections with Pratt. Day 3 probably for the Broncos. I know he's got a water gun arm out there, Scott, but he has got some okay tape out there. Also, maybe talk about a Devin Leary. He did okay at the Shrine Bowl. I don't know. I don't know if the Broncos have to go on quarterback. So, and Jeremy says Pickett would be quarterback 7 in this draft. I think he'd be in the same conversation as Penix, Nix, McCarthy. I think that's the tier you're talking about there. He was pretty good at Pitt, just not, obvious first round talent, which is kind of where we're at with this, in my opinion. But Scott, we probably do need to do the
we got a couple of stars comments coming in here. I want to hit real quick. Okay. I'm opening up so many tabs. I'm gonna have to close some. I can't find where we are here. Hit Michael first. The Broncos draft wide receiver before the quarterback. Would it be a reach at 12 for the Broncos? No. There's especially if one of those guys falls, one of those top guys. I think wide receiver, you're probably going to have a wide receiver graded higher on your board than a quarterback when the 12th pick comes up, don't you think, Nick?
Yeah, probably. You never know. I think there's obviously a line delineation after the top 4 pass catchers to that next group. So maybe you have a quarterback rated higher there. Seems like there's a pretty obvious line in the sand between those tiers. But yeah, wide receiver is definitely something that they are going to be looking at. I feel like it's not as much of a priority as the defensive line and potentially offensive line as well, but the board is going to dictate that. Lawrence comes in and says, "Hey guys, when do you know when's the last time a projected first round quarterback has panned out? It's been a while. I mean, CJ Stroud was a first round projected quarterback. You mean just for the Broncos?
Yeah, and I don't know if you even meant number 1 overall. But yeah, Lawrence, there's last year alone, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson was hurt. Those are 2 out of 3, and they're out of 4, and actually 2 out of 3. I'd say those right now look like hits. 2022, the only one was Kenny Pickett, and he was number 20. For a number 20 overall pick, he's been okay. 2021, you go Trevor Lawrence, hit. Zach Wilson, miss. Trey Lance, miss. Justin Fields, maybe. Mac Jones, miss. 2020, Joe Burrow, yes, please. Tua, yes. Justin Herbert, yes. Jordan Love, yes. 4 for 4 in 2020. I mean, they hit more than they miss, really. And they hit on a significantly higher ratio than any other quarterback in the draft. I mean, you want to say Brock Purdy, all right? What about Brock Purdy? Okay. When did he get drafted? Let's listen to the guys that got drafted ahead of Brock Purdy based on these billion-dollar entities that we call NFL and all the money that they have into scouting players. These are the 8 quarterbacks that went ahead of Brock Purdy by all of these other teams. Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Baylor Zappi, Sam Howell, Chris Oladokun. So the Steelers drafted 2 quarterbacks that year, Skylar Thompson, and then Brock Purdy. It's most of the time you get past the first round, you never hear from those quarterbacks again. You get a 1 out of 20 and everybody says, well, look at that guy. And it just, the probability just doesn't work like that.
Your numerator is only as telling as your denominator, Scott. It's Monday. We do want to get into a mock draft here. I know we're already running long, so we're going to book it here. Luckily, I guess for us in this situation, the Broncos do not have a lot of picks. So that means that it's going to be a little easier for us. And here we go. Broncos, I'm not going to do any trades this time. We'll do trades for another time. So we're going to be sitting here on the clock at 12. Okay, we got a interesting board here for the Broncos. Let's just go through the picks beforehand. Caleb Williams to the Bears, Drake May to the Commanders, Malik Neighbors to the Patriots, Joe Alt to the Cardinals, Jerzon Newton to the Chargers. I don't buy that one. Jaden Daniels to the Giants, Rome Odunze to the Titans, Brock Bowers to the Falcons. Ooh, sorry, Scott. I don't know how that
I've drafted him there too, honestly.
Over Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Bears at 9. Cooper DeJean.
No, come on. See, this is ridiculous.
It's the simulator, man. Maybe he gets hurt. I don't know. And then Bo Nix.
It needs more time to. It needs more people cranking in to help normalize it a little bit. Did you crank up the randomness on this?
Not really. Hence why Caleb Williams and Drake May still went 1 and 2, and Joe Alt didn't fall to the Broncos still. Sometimes there's just a random one in there, but that's okay. So we have a board here for the Broncos. I think we're very much in the conversation with probably 3-4 guys here. No quarterbacks, unless you're in on JJ McCarthy. But I think the tackle is the conversation here. It's tackle or edge, positions of value, no trades projected. There is a chance that Olu Fashanu falls to the Broncos here. There's been some talk that people were not as impressed with his 2023 tape, especially against Michigan and Ohio State. Had some issues with power, maybe playing a little bit dinged up. But I think Olu Fashanu, Talise Fuaga, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Leatu Latu, as well as Terry and Arnold are your conversation here. I'm not as interested in the cornerback conversation, but Terry and Arnold is a hell of a talent. But for this one, I think you're going with Olu Fashanu. He is the highest rated player on the board here for me. And like we talked about earlier, Garrett Bowles might be gone. This is a team that's probably going to have to reinvent itself a little bit at a lot of spots, and to get a projected long-term starter at one of the most expensive positions, at a position that is, you talk about quarterback being a first rounder bust position. Look at the top tackles in the NFL. I don't think there's a position that is as first rounders being the guys versus not being the guys as offensive tackles. So I'm going to say Olu Fashanu should be the pick here.
If Garrett Bowles is traded, I'll agree with you. If he's not, I want the edge. I'd go Dallas Turner on this. The pass rush needs a dude. You're running into some final years of contracts on some guys, on some cost-controlled guys that you might not be able to re-sign. You might not want to re-sign. I want the pass rusher. So if your starting lineup is intact on draft day, outside of the center position, I'd go edge. But we'll lean into it and say, hey, Garrett Bowles, you already said I think he's gone. Get a tackle. Get your starter for the next 10 years.
The other conversation here as well, Scott, is if it's not quarterback, for me, it better damn well be something that specifically helps the quarterback. I know the Broncos need defensive line and edge help really badly. I think that is secondary team building wise behind the infrastructure surrounding the quarterback.
Yeah, get his protector in year 1 and get the guy in year 2.
Hopefully.
Load him with weapons in year 3.
You just need some more building blocks. Also, if we're talking about building this team in the Detroit Lions image, what makes that team tick is the offensive line. So I think Olu Fashanu would be the pick here for me. We'll see. There's going to be a conversation about Talise Fuaga before we're done with it here, but he's ranked 12, so he's definitely a possibility. But I'm going to go with Olu. Broncos get a left tackle, somebody extremely talented. Now you have to wait all the way to pick 76 before you pick again. God bless. That is pretty rough. And they're going to have a conversation about JJ McCarthy there. From my understanding, I just don't think it's being quarterback this year, but you never know. We will see. So now we're on the clock again with the Broncos. We took a tackle before. We're on the hunt now for defensive line and edge rusher. Right now, Scott, I got to say, I'm not loving this board for the Broncos. Just scrolling down. Not a lot of guys really standing out to me, unfortunately.
For 76, I already picked mine guy, and it's going to look a lot like the draft we had this morning.
You're going to say Roman Wilson?
I'm going to say Roman Wilson, the wide receiver.
Is there a conversation for Malachi Corley?
Yes, Malachi Corley was really, really good as well. He's one of the wide receivers I haven't put up. But you start looking at the hands. Here's a Michael Penix throw too. Let's throw some video of him if it decides to load here. Spinning off my I've got an external hard drive that takes a second. It likes to go to sleep. We're having trouble sharing your video. Let me try again. So I would go Roman Wilson in this position of need, wide receiver. You need a wide receiver. Speaking of guys who might not be there might be 1 or 2 wide receivers not there come draft day if you're making some trades as well. So, but again, I think you need help at wide receiver.
You need defensive line help as well. You need edge. I did really like Marshawn Kneeland at the NFL Senior Bowl as well, but probably not. I don't know. I like the profile though of Kneeland. There's also the other Penn State rusher as an option here as well, but I think we'll go with Roman Wilson on this one. I don't love it, but it makes sense where the Broncos are at. So we'll get the wide receiver and keep it on trucking here. Not a lot of picks, so we'll see how it plays out. And I got to be honest, Scott, I'm pretty good with the first 125 in the draft in a typical year. Once we get to, the round 5 and stuff, it's like, I'm kind of falling off.
Jacob Cowling's not bad. There's your wide receiver. Tyler Davis is a big 300-pound. Christian Jones, there's another tackle. There's a lot of guys in here we don't know, y'all. So I don't know that I'd go Pritchett on this one, but I wouldn't be against. Who did I say to begin with on that? Ray Davis at running back's not bad. Cade Stover's okay. Click on the tight end button. Where do they have Brevin Spanford on here?
I like Cade Stover a lot more. I think Spanford's got a little bit of Alberto Cuebanam to him, where he's built huge and he is just a absolutely terrible blocker.
That's what I haven't looked at yet. I haven't gone through my teams yet. It's hard to believe a guy 6'7", 270 wouldn't be a good blocker coming from Minnesota.
Yeah, he kind of drives me nuts in that regard.
Okay.
But for me, the tight end who stands out here, if we do want to go tight end, it would be Cade Stover. I really like Theo Johnson's potential as well, but Cade Stover is fun. He played edge rusher and linebacker for Ohio State. They've kind of moved him around, and they finally found a home from him at tight end. He's pretty good in the seam, and they love him. He is a dude in terms of the blocking out there, very physical player. They call him Farm Gronk. He's kind of got that agriculture vibe going to him. You'll see him on a combine in the offseason. So I like Cade Stover a lot here. Tight end's a developmental position. So I think Stover would be an okay pick here if you wanted to go tight end. It is a pretty poor tight end class.
I saw a bunch of tight ends in there I liked, so I'd probably pass her. If I came in out with Ben Sinnott, I'd be okay too.
Ben Sinnott, so yeah, it's a solid one.
Mm-hmm.
Is running back in the conversation for the Broncos here? Ray Davis was awesome down there at the Senior Bowl. I was impressed with him. I really like Audric Estime from Notre Dame. He is built as well. He's not a home run hitter, but good balance. Maybe that's one as well. Defensive line and edge. Also, you got to start making some inroads there.
Yeah.
Christian Boyd was awesome at the Shrine Bowl.
Jordan Jefferson's got some nasty to him.
He's definitely an option there as well. Igboigi is awesome. Boyd was awesome at the Shrine Bowl, Scott. Gosh. It's I'm between Cedric Van Pran, Estime, and Stover here, and Lloyd. Lloyd is really good. There's a lot of good running backs, so I think we should probably wait on running back. Maybe we go with Cedric Van Pran, take another offensive lineman here and keep building that area.
I'd probably go defensive line here. Again, a couple of the guys I liked, and if I went Jordan Jefferson or Tyler Davis, but either way, it's your. I'm just assistant general manager in this room.
I don't think either of those guys bring enough pop right now for me.
But we're also in the 4th round.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to beat out Jonathan Harris.
I'm going to go Cedric Van Pran. High drafted value guy. Think there's kind of a drop off at center after that. We got another.
We need a center for sure.
And we're still on the board here. Tyler Davis. We all get what we want.
Now I can get Tyler Davis.
There you go. I probably would have gone Christian Boyd over him, but we'll see how it plays out for the Broncos here. On the clock again, there's a quarterback here for you. Jordan
Marcus
Travis.
Rosemont, Jack Saint had a decent. Again, you can get wide receivers in this draft.
That's one reason on 3rd round I'm like, if you love the guy, sure, but I think you could wait in this draft class. And then we have to wait all the way down here. We'll see who the Broncos have. Gosh, this is 3 more picks. We're almost here. Okay, we're definitely looking at running back here for the Broncos.
I think. What's the contract look like on? I've got 200 college names in my brain. Who's the running back behind with Javonte that came from the Bengals?
P. Ryan. I think he has one more year left.
Marjay P. Ryan.
Yeah, I think he has one more
back for sure. Otherwise, running back is not a developmental position. It's a draft and play, so you can do that the year you want one.
Yeah. Yes, we could wait a year. I just also think that you don't want to be in a situation where you have to take one. So I'd almost rather take a year early. But
that doesn't bother me at running back.
Doesn't bother you.
I can. There's enough good running backs. I can get one middle rounds any year and plug him into the not starting lineup, but I can plug him in.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm going to be honest with you, Scott. I like on the board still here. I really like Roger Rosengarten.
That's why I like Roger Rosengarten as a developmental tackle as well.
Jared Wiley was one of the better tight ends at the Senior Bowl from TCU. I also really like Delmar Glaze from Maryland. Got some potential here. So if you want to go with a Rosengarten here, I'm fine with it. We're going trench offensive line heavy and hopefully fortifying that spot where
light on his feet, could use a couple pounds of weight. It's hard to say that about a guy that weighs 310 pounds, but looks like you could add some power.
Yeah.
But I like the height and weight on him. And I like the height, I like the frame, and I like the way he moves.
Well, there you have it, folks. Full 7-round mock draft. The one position that I think in hindsight, Scott, if I was doing this again, I would not have taken Jordan Travis there. I'd have taken our guy from Tennessee. He was still on the board. I saw Joe Milton probably just for the 5th round pick as a scratch ticket. So
yeah, fifth rounder. Jordan Travis, right? Again, I don't mind Jordan. I haven't seen as much Jordan Travis. If I need a redshirt year on Jordan Travis and I have a better quarterback in a year, that's fine with me because I don't want to play Joe Milton next year anyway. If we'll see how he goes, but maybe I can put packages in for him in short yardage where I can use his athleticism. But Jordan Travis, where would he be if he had stayed healthy and gotten to play all the way through the college football playoff?
Probably 4th round.
Okay.
So it's a value still, but I just think he probably doesn't have the overall arm talent. This is a This is a draft that's not about winning in 2024 for me. This is one where you're trying to build build a foundation specifically on the offensive line, and
I was gonna say
really
that said, you're looking at 4 guys that you want to play a lot of minutes. It'll take a lot of snaps. It's your top 4. You got your tackle, first round at 12. You've made a move there. He's starting. Roman Wilson could come in and play right away. Center, you may have your center in Alex Forsyth. You may not. This guy comes in with a much higher pedigree and plays right away. Tyler Davis would be on the field on day one. You need 300-pound big bodies. Jordan Travis is a red shirt. Rosengarten is a red shirt. And Jared Wiley, maybe he gets out there and can do some things on both sides.
Yeah, very much a developmental draft for the Broncos here. And maybe next Monday we'll talk about a trade down scenario. But this is where we're at right now. And you guys let us know the thoughts. Hopefully, I mean, not going to get everybody's favorite here. But I think
that's the thoughts here.
One defensive player. Yeah, it's not a good defensive draft. And the board didn't really fall that way, unfortunately. I was looking at edge rusher, defensive tackle, cornerback. Didn't tend to happen in that one. I don't know. You just gotta kind of go with how the board falls. So you'll look for a lot of defensive guys and undrafted free agent if that's the case.
Yeah, and again, you've lost your offensive tackle if I'm drafting Olu Fashanu. If not, otherwise I'm going defense there probably. With Dallas Turner was still happen to be on the board, if Terrion Honor is still on the board, then I'm using my first round pick on a defensive guy probably.
Yeah. So again, this is a rebuilding the offensive line infrastructure and trying to replicate a little bit what the Lions have done here. Get a chance at a long-term left tackle. I don't know if I love the pairing of Roman Wilson with Marvin Mims, just because you're pretty darn small then at wide receiver, and I'm looking to become the bully if I can, but you got to take good players at the end of the day, and it's kind of hard from pick 12 to 76 to get talent, but we'll see what happens. I'm expecting, again, one thing positive here, we could have forced it, Scott, is in this situation, we could have forced a Bulls trade and gotten a round 3 pick for him or something. So we'll see. It's going to keep.
I think you're gonna have to, we talked about it last night. The scenario we hadn't really talked about is I think you're gonna have to buy some picks. The cap relief doesn't really mean much if you're trading away your good players in a rebuild in order to pick up draft picks. Then available cap space doesn't mean anything to you because you're not going to be able to get free agents anyway. Free agents aren't coming so you're buying picks. It's like, okay, we'll take a 5th for Bulls. Oh, we'll pick up $10 million of his contract because we don't need the cap relief anyway because we're not planning on competing this year because we're in a fire sale. Okay, we'll move that to a 3rd. So I just bought a pick. I'm not clearing cap space for 2024 if I'm in a fire sale.
Yeah, and String Guy doesn't like the mock. Ho-hums, C-. I mean, after the first top, you only have 2 picks in the top 100. It's going to feel ho-hum, unfortunately. The teams that always get the high grades in the drafts are the ones that have more top 100 picks. Who'd have thought? But yeah, overall, honestly, my favorite part of the entire mock here is the round 7 picks. I think Rosengarten and Wiley there are probably going to be 4th or 5th round picks. You got them in the 7th. Could Bowles be worth the 1st? Nope. He's not going to be worth the 1st. He's too old, and this is an unbelievable tackle class. If there was a really thin tackle class, maybe we're talking about it, but you're going to have teams wanting to take a shot at a guy versus trading for Bowles.
I think 3rd, 4th at best, and maybe you can buy that up. Maybe a 4th, and then you can buy that up to a 3rd round based on how much of his contract you're willing to pick up.
I think I'm looking for a 3rd. That's the range I'm expecting here for Bowles. Once there's going to be there's a lot of tackles. I expect the tackle bodies to be off the board though by the 55th pick. Somebody's going to be, it's going to be, musical chairs. Somebody's going to be left standing, wanting to tackle. Then I could see a day 2 trade of Bulls if it doesn't happen beforehand. So who knows? But yeah, not going to please everyone. Let us know what you would have done differently. Look through it. I know there's some JJ McCarthy love. I can't pull the trigger from where I'm at for him. And I know I'm not in on Nix or Penix at 12. So people would disagree with me on that one. That's fine. That doesn't hurt me at all. Tell me why you disagree. Not that I'm the dumbest person ever. I get that enough at home. No, I'm just kidding. Appreciate everyone coming in here. Interesting mock, no doubt. We'll see what happens with the Broncos. Fun Senior Bowl. And we'll be continuing to do mock drafts on Monday because it's fun. And we can go through a lot of different scenarios. One thing also about the mock drafts is I really want to look at different options over and over again. So let's say it's constant like we had this morning with the Falcons one, Scott. Jaden Daniels there. Well, I'm not taking Jaden Daniels every freaking time because I want to see what the mocks look
we'll
like
switch up different mock simulators to see if we can get some different scenarios.
Yep, exactly. Can we trade Sean Payton for a first? Yeah, I don't know. Appreciate everyone coming in. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says here underneath, please subscribe to Mile High Huddle, like our show, and share on all social media platforms. We appreciate everybody coming in here. Have a great rest of your day. Any final thoughts, Scott?
Nope, just first mock draft that we've gone 7 rounds. So again, we'll do this every Monday and see how much they change over the course as the boards update, because we're following the boards to a certain extent. There's players that we like, and we'll see where some of the guys that we like. And then keep an eye on youtube.com/Scott Kennedy. I'll start putting out a lot more video. I think I put about 15 out over the weekend, and it was easy to do quarterbacks and wide receivers. Takes a little more time to do the other stuff because I got to break down teams a lot better to do some of the offensive linemen. But then we'll show, oh yeah, that Brevin Ford guy doesn't block. Ah, crap. 6'7", 270 with a natural, plays like a basketball player is not going to block. You're killing me, man.
Yep. Tarzan and Jane. Appreciate everyone. Thanks, Michael, coming in. You guys have a great rest of your day. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. And as always, go Broncos.